So today we're going to answer the question, which one's better, the 8 paddle or the 10 paddle? This is Olson's Garage. Let's get into it. So back in early July, we went to Silver Lake Sand Dunes and I opted to get a paddle tire. After the research I did, I opted for the 10 paddle. Now Kyle did similar research, but he opted for the 8 paddle. And then Griffin didn't have time to get a paddle tire, so he was struggle busing with a knobby, which I would really not recommend using a knobby at Silver Lake Sand Dunes unless you have a behemoth amount of power. So what we learned is that obviously you need a paddle tire, but you're asking yourself, which one do I get? Do I get the 8 paddle or do I get the 10 paddle? Well, I'm going to share my experiences with you guys now. Personally, I like the 10 paddle, and here's a couple reasons why, but it may not be what you think. The 10 paddle, with 25% more scoops than the 8 paddle, offers a lot better low speed traction. I had the 10 paddle on my bike and Kyle's bike had the 8 paddle, so we swapped bikes a handful of times. So what I found is that when we were on the entryway to the sand dunes where you can only drive 15 miles an hour, I was having a much harder time controlling the rear end of Kyle's bike without speed. Trying to do low speed stuff with 8 paddle meant you were kind of sliding around and you didn't have as good of a rear end feeling as you did with the 10 paddle. Where on the KX, I was just cruising around nice and slow, and I could get really slow, but I'd still have good bite. And that's simply because there's more paddles. At higher speed, we noticed basically no difference. We drag raced, and I'll put that right here. And while we were drag racing, we were basically neck and neck the entire time. Kyle's bike is a YZ250 from 2002 that makes probably right around 44 horsepower. This is a 1998 KX250, which makes around 44 horsepower. So they're both very even. We even did a comparison video, which I'll link right here. So after doing that comparison video, we found that both the bikes are basically neck and neck. Obviously, they were fighting for the motocross title in the early 2000s. So one thing that may deter you with a higher horsepower bike from the 10 paddle, what I heard was that they're not as maneuverable, where the 8 paddle allows you to steer a little bit quicker because this offers too much drive. And what I found, it made absolutely no difference. But I'm also not racing in the sand. So maybe if there was a sandy motocross track that you were to ride on, maybe the 8 paddle would be better for you. Personally, if I'm going back out to the sand dunes with any bike over 30 horsepower, I'm picking the 10 paddle. Now, there may be some stipulation in there because this makes 44 horsepower, and maybe if I went down on the lower side to that 30 horsepower, this may actually hinder you by having too much traction, where the 8 paddle will allow you more wheel speed and thus more traction, where the 10 paddle may slow you down. You won't be able to get the wheel speed and get that sand ejected fast enough. Now, the big caveat here is horsepower for your bike. Now, if you're going into the sand dunes with a CRF 230 or KLX 230 or something right around that 20-25 range or even less, you may want to opt for the 8 paddle or even a 6 paddle. Now, the problem with going to more paddles, like going from a 10 to a 12 paddle, is that eventually you won't be able to get the bite anymore because these will be closer together and you'll basically skip over the sand rather than actually digging into the sand. I don't have any experiences with the 6 paddle or the 12 paddle, so do your research if you're looking into either of those, but 90% of the paddles that you're going to see out there are going to be 8s or 10s. So getting back to my point about the smaller bikes, you can either choose the 8 paddle or the 6 paddle, or what you can do is you can re-gear and you can get your sprocket size on the rear a lot bigger to give you more torque, but you'll be shifting a lot more often. But you'll be able to make use of that smaller amount of power. As far as price goes on these 2 tires, they were basically the exact same. And I have links to both these tires in the description down below. If you guys want help on the channel, please buy from those links. I really appreciate it. Now, as far as the argument goes for the 19-inch rear tire or an 18-inch rear tire, as far as the pedal tires go, it makes essentially no difference. These are going to be pumped up to a higher pressure just to keep them from folding or even popping off the bead. Another point that I want to talk about is make sure you have rim locks on these too. The amount of abuse that these paddle tires get and the amount of abuse that your bike gets in the sand dunes is insane. So make sure you have everything locked down to a T. For you eagle-eyed viewers, I am actually missing a spoke, but I got this tire 2 days before we were about to leave for the sand dunes. So I didn't really have time to dismount it, get a spoke kit. I assumed all the spokes were going to be in there. Of course, the pictures lied. So I ended up mounting it, sending it, and it came back home just fine. And unfortunately, Kyle's bike didn't make it home safely. But that will be in another video. So yeah, basically my main points are, if you have the horsepower, definitely opt for the 10 pedal. You have a much better feeling at slow speed and top speed. It makes very little difference. If you have a lower horsepower bike, you might want to opt for the 8 pedal or even a 6 pedal. Or you might want to talk about re-gearing to optimize your power. Now, these 2 tires are Sedona Dune Attacks. And from the other research that I've done, these are your most common because they come in at a really good price range, and all the other ones, while they may offer a smaller cup or a line of rubber down the middle, other things to maybe help you with stability. I haven't tested those, but we picked these and they performed absolutely amazing. We were able to pretty much wheelie wherever we wanted to go. The biggest takeaway from this is the low speed. If you guys found this video helpful and you'd like to potentially learn more, feel free to ask down in the comments. And this is the first video in a series that I'm going to do about things that we learned about going to the sand dunes. So if this video added any value to you, please like, subscribe, share with other people, and we'll see you guys on the next one.